Hey guys, it's me, Miss Mills, and welcome to Mrs. Mills' Math Time. The whole point of this video is to help you out with solving 1- and 2-step equations. This is for the notes. These notes are interactive, so you do, in fact, have to watch this video in order to get answers and explanations. And if you have any questions at the end, let me know, and I'll help out in any way that I can. All right, so again, these are interactive, so follow along and answer these questions with me. We are solving 1- and 2-step equations today during these notes, so you do need to pay very close attention. We'll do lots and lots of examples, and then you're going to be able to practice these skills as well. So let's go ahead and do this. First, we're going to start with 1-step equations. While solving 1-step equations, we have to isolate the variable. So isolating the variable is a fancy word for saying, we want to get the variable or the letter by itself. So to get the letter by itself, we have to use the inverse operation, which means the opposite operation, in order to get our variable or letter by itself. So before we do that, we're going to make sure that we remember what our inverse operations are for each of these original operations. For example, if we have addition, what is the opposite of adding something? Well, the opposite of adding something is subtracting it. So subtraction is the inverse operation of addition. Well, if subtraction is the inverse if subtraction is the inverse operation of addition, then addition is going to be the inverse operation of subtraction. The inverse operation of multiplication is going to be division. And last but certainly not least, if division is the inverse operation of multiplication, then multiplication is going to be the inverse operation of division. So again, what we want to do is we want to isolate the variable by getting it by itself. And in order to do that, we have to use the inverse operation or the opposite operation in order to get it by itself. So let's practice the skill. All right, so the first question we have, x is over 3, and we are going to equal that to 16. So first step here is we want to put our balance beam through the equal sign, because we need to remind ourselves that whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, you do have to do it on the other side of the equal sign as well. Now, we want to get the variable by itself. In this case, our variable is x, that is our letter. And in order to get our variable by itself, we have to use the inverse operation. Well, the opposite of x getting divided by 3, like we see here, is x getting multiplied by 3. And if we do it on one side of the equal sign, we do have to do that same thing to the other side as well. And then we can solve. Well, these two cancel out. Again, they're opposites, and that leaves us with just x. And then we just do 16 multiplied by 3. Well, 16 multiplied by 3 is 48. And if you ever want to check your answer, this is what you can do. You can always plug your x value or your variable value into the original equation and see if it matches up. For example, if I put 48 and have that divided by 3 and equal to 16, well, we have to make sure this matches out. Well, 48 divided by 3 is equal to 16. So this would work out. It is in fact correct. X is going to be equal to 48. So now that we found that, we can go ahead and come in here and we can say that x is equal to 48. All right, here's our next problem. We have 12n, and that is equal to 42. All righty, so again, first steps, we're going to put our balance beam through the equal sign. And then we need to get n by itself. Well, we have to use the inverse operation. And I want y'all to remember, whenever you have a number right next to a variable just like this, it is always going to be equal to multiplication. This is the same as saying 12 is getting multiplied by n. So the opposite of n getting multiplied by 12 is getting divided by 12. So that's what we have to do in order to get n by itself. And if we do it on one side of the balance beam, we have to do the exact same thing on the other side as well. So again, these cancel out, leaving us with just n. And then 42 divided by 12 is going to give us 3.5. It's going to give us 3.5. And again, if you wanted to check this, you can plug 3.5 into the original equation and make sure that it is equal to 42. In this case, that would happen. So this is going to be correct. Our n value, our variable, is equal to 3 5/10. All right, same thing. We have 6 over 7e, and we're going to equal that to 12, and we need to solve for e. So same thing, we need to do the opposite to get e by itself. And the opposite of e getting multiplied by 6 over 7 is to get divided by 6 over 7, which is a fraction. Okay? And if you do it on one side of the equal sign, you have to do it on the other side as well. 6 over 7. And if you struggle with this, I would recommend using a calculator in order to solve this. Again, the calculator that I want y'all to use, especially practice with before K-Prep, is this Desmos calculator right here. And again, we can just do 12 and have that divided by, and then I'm going to do 6 divided by 7. And again, I want this to be 6 over 7, I guess. Yeah, I guess that would work. And this would be equal to 14, okay? So 12 divided by 6 over 7, the fraction, is going to give us 14. So I can go back here and say that e is equal to 14 because, again, these cancel out. They're opposites, leaving us with just e. And then we figured out this was equal to 14. And again, if you wanted to check it, you could plug in 14 in where e is and make sure that it does match up. In this case, it would. So we can go back and we can say that e, that's 3, e is equal to 14. All right, so that was multiplication and division. From now on, it looks like we're going to be doing addition and subtraction. So our first problem we have is g plus 3 and 5/10, and that's going to be equal to 10. So first step is to put a balance beam through the equal sign. We want to make sure that we remember whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we do have to do the same thing on the other side as well. So first step, we want to get our variable g by itself, so we do have to use the inverse operation. So g is getting added by 3 and 5/10. So the opposite of getting added by 3 and 5/10 is getting subtracted by 3 and 5/10. And remember, if we do it on one side of the balance beam, we do have to do the same thing on the other side as well. And we can solve. I'll put a little 0 there. But so again, these cancel out. They are opposites, and we can bring this g down. And then we just do 10 minus 3 and 5/10. Well, 10 minus 3 and 5/10 is going to give us 6 and 5/10. And guys, that would be our answer. That's what g is equal to. Again, if you wanted to check that, you could just plug in 6 and 5/10 in where g is and make sure that it was equal to 10. In this case, that would be correct. Therefore, g is equal to 6 and 5/10. All right, so just a couple more on this one. We have t subtracted by 4 and 4 and 25/100ths, and that is equal to -4. So again, the same thing. We want to put a balance beam through the equal sign, and then we want to go ahead and solve. So again, we want to get t by itself. In order to get t by itself, we have to get rid of this getting subtracted by 4 and 25/100ths. So the opposite of getting subtracted by 4 and 25/100ths is getting added by 4 and 25/100ths. And if we do it on one side of the balance beam, we do have to do the same thing on the other side as well. So again, these cancel out. I'm going to go ahead and bring this t down, and then I can just solve the other side. Well, -4 plus 4 and 25/100ths, well, -4 plus 4, that's going to be opposites as well. And what we're left over is with 25/100ths. So t is equal to 25/100ths. Okay, so that is equal to 4 and 25, or that's equal to 25/100ths. So we can go ahead and come in here. We're going to say t is equal to 25/100ths. I'll put a 0 in front of that as well. All right. Now, last but certainly not least on these problems, we have -6 plus m, and that is equal to 3 and 6/10. Again, what we want to do here is we're going to put a balance beam through the equal sign, and we want to get m by itself. Well, to get m by itself, we have to do the opposite operation of -6. Well, the opposite of -6 is going to be +6. Okay? And if we do it on one side of the equal sign, we have to do it on the other side as well. And we can solve. So again, these are opposites, so I'm going to cancel them out. I'm going to bring down my m value. And then 3 and 6/10 plus 6 is going to be 9 and 6/10. And again, if you wanted to check this, you could substitute this value in for m and make sure that -6 plus 9 6/10 would give you 3 6/10. In this case, that would be correct, so this will be our final answer. And I'm going to go in again, and I'm going to say that m is equal to 9 6/10. Guys, if y'all have any questions about one-step equations, make sure to let me know, but it's time to go ahead and do two-step equations. So two-step equations are basically the same thing, except there's, of course, one more step to it. So I have the steps right here, and I put them over here as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use addition and subtraction to remove the constants. Once we remove the constants, then we use the multiplication or division to remove the coefficients or the number that is next to the letter. And then we can, once we do that, we can solve for our variable, because that would be getting it by itself is by doing these steps. And then here's another tip. If you're dividing by a fraction, you can multiply the fraction by its reciprocal, and you will get that correct answer as well. So we're going to do some examples of this. So what we have here is 14, and that's getting added by 9m, and that is equal to -13. Alrighty. So again, first step, again, is we want to make sure that we have a balance beam through our equal sign. And then we can solve. So first step is to get rid of our constant. So we want to get rid of our constant. This is our constant right here. So this is a positive 14. So the opposite of a positive 14 is to subtract it by 14. And if we do that on one side of the equal sign, we have to do it on the other side as well. So these cancel out. I'm going to bring down my 9m. And then -13 minus 14 is going to give us -27. And then we have a one-step equation. So we have 9 multiplied by m. So the opposite of 9 getting multiplied by m is to divide by 9. If you do it on one side of the equal sign, you do have to do it on the other side as well. And then we can solve for m. Again, these cancel out because they're opposites. So that just leaves us with m. So I brought it down. And then -27 divided by 9 is going to leave us with -3. So m is equal to -3. And if you wanted to check your work again, you can go ahead and plug in m into your official equation to make sure that you get that correct answer. So let me look at that again. We had 14 plus 9. I'm going to put a -3 in for there, and that is equal to -13. So again, we can go ahead and solve this to make sure that -3 is our correct answer. So first, we would multiply these two values. So that's going to be 14 plus 9 times -3 is going to give us -27. That is equal to -13. Okay. So then we can just go ahead and solve. Positive 14 plus, when you have a plus and a minus like that, that's going to go ahead and give us a negative. So 14 minus 27 is going to give us, in fact, -13. So these do match up, so it is correct. -3 is our m value. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in and say that our m value is equal to -3. Now let's keep going. So our next question is -2 is equal to n over 2, and that's going to be subtracted by 6. So again, first step, let's put our balance beam through the equal sign. What we do on one side of the balance beam, we do have to do it on the other side as well. And then we want to get rid of our constant. Remember, this is our constant right here. So the opposite of -6, because we do have that negative in front of it, is to add it by 6. So we're going to add 6. And if we do it on one side, we do have to do it on the other side as well. So -2 plus 6, well, -2 plus 6 is going to give us a positive 4. And then we are left over with n over 2, and then these canceled out. So this is what we have left over, and now we have our one-step equation. So n divided by 2, the opposite of getting divided by 2 is multiplying n by 2. And if we do it on one side, we do have to do it on the other side as well. So then we can solve for real. So 2 multiplied by 4 is going to give us 8. And then these cancel out, leaving us with n, and n is equal to 8. Again, if you wanted to make sure this was correct, you can plug in 8n into your original equation and make sure that you got that -2. But in this case, that would be correct. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that 8 n is equal to 8. All right, so now we have 1/2 b. We're subtracting that by 16, and that is equal to -4. All right, so same thing. We're going to put a balance beam through the equal sign. We want to get rid of our constant first. Our constant is the number by itself. In this case, this is a -16, so we need to do the opposite of -16. The opposite of -16 is to add it by 16. And if we do it on one side, we do have to do it on the other side as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down because these cancel out. 1/2 b. And that is equal to -4 plus 16. Well, that is going to leave me with 12. So there's a couple of ways you can solve this problem. You can divide both sides by 1/2, or you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/2. It's completely up to you. In this case, just because I want to show you how it works both ways, in one-step equations, I showed you how you can divide it by the original number. Well, in this case, I'm going to show you that you can multiply it by its reciprocal, which is just the fraction flipped, and you'll get the correct answer as well. So I'm going to multiply it by its reciprocal, so 2/1. And if I do that on one side of the equation, I have to do it on the other side as well. Again, these cancel out, they're opposites, leaving me with just b. And then 12 times 2/1 is the same as saying 12 multiplied by just 2. And 12 multiplied by 2 is going to give us 24. So that would give us our answer. And again, if you wanted to plug that into our equation to see if it worked out, that is completely fine. In this case, if 24 was substituted into our original equation, it would equal -4, so it is the correct answer. So I'm going to go in and say b is equal to 24. All right, so there's about 3 more left. Stick with me, we're almost done. So this time we have 4w plus 15, and that is equal to -13. Well, same thing. Let's go ahead and put our balance beam through the equal sign, and we can go ahead and solve. First step is to get rid of our constant. Our constant is a positive 15, so to get rid of it, we have to do the opposite. The opposite is subtracting it by 15. And if I do it on one side of the balance beam, I have to do it on the other side as well. These cancel out, so I'm going to bring down my 4w. And then -13 minus 15 is going to give us -28. -13 minus 15 is going to give us -28. And then I have a one-step equation. 4 is getting multiplied by w here, so I need to do the opposite of multiplication. The opposite of getting multiplied by 4 is getting divided by 4. If I do it on one side, I do have to do it on the other side as well, leaving me with w is, because they cancel out, w is equal to -28 divided by 4, which I believe is 6. 7 thing. -28 divided by 4 is going to give us -7. And that is our answer. And if you wanted to plug this into our original equation to make sure that matched up, it would work out, leaving us with w is equal to -7. All right, 2 more. So we have d is over 1 6/10. That is added by 31, and that is equal to 40. Alrighty, so again, we want to get rid of our constant first. So I'm going to subtract 31 on both sides. These cancel out. I'm going to bring down this d is over 1 6/10. 40 minus 31 is going to give us 9. And then we have a one-step equation. The opposite of d getting divided by 1 6/10 is to multiply it by 1 6/10. And if I do it on one side, I do have to do that on the other side as well. And then I can solve. These cancel out, and d is equal to, and I'm going to put this into the calculator. 9 is getting multiplied by 1 6/10, and that is going to give us 14 4/10. And there you go. That is our answer. D is equal to 14 4/10. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into our answers. D is equal to 14 4/10. All right, and very last question. I thank everybody who has stuck with me so far. I do really appreciate it. So 2 over 3b, we're going to add that by 19. That is going to be equal to 35. All right, so first step is to put our balance beam through the equal sign. We want to get rid of the constant first. So the constant in this case is 19. The opposite of positive 19 is negative 19. I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm going to bring this down because these cancel out. So 2 over 3b is equal to 35 minus 19. That's going to leave me with 16. Again, there's a couple ways you can solve this. You can either multiply this by our reciprocal, or you can divide it by the original fraction on both sides. It's up to you. In this case, I'm going to divide it by the fraction because, again, this is the same as 2/3 multiplied by b. We have to do the opposite of getting multiplied, which is division. And we can go ahead and solve. So these cancel out, leaving me with b is equal to 16 over 2 3/10. 16 over 2 3/10, which is going to give me 24. So b is equal to 24. Guys, if y'all have any questions about this, let me know. I know this was a pretty long video, so again, I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Y'all will be practicing these skills over the next few days. I have a worksheet that y'all can work on in order to do that. I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.